Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the 34th Comic Art Fans Update. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you guys are having a good evening. Carlos, good vibes as always. Thank you for being here, like you are almost every week in every show. I appreciate it. Last night we had another fun dueling dealer show. I hope everybody who was there enjoyed it. There were a few snafus, of course, trying to introduce that Nightbot, but it actually will work for us, I think. I mean, I was really disappointed in the way it started off because I didn't understand what the problem was. And it turned out Glenn, because he typed everything like we told him in all caps, what it did was the Nightbot also checks for spam. So if somebody's going in there and pounding away in all caps and exclamation points and that sort of thing, with many of those things, it triggers the Nightbot to basically time them out. So that is what happened to Glenn. Although I didn't know it because I didn't know it had a spam filter in it. We were just using it to help us with the claim process during the show. So once we figured that out, things sort of, it kept everything entertaining last night, except for me, because at the time I couldn't go into it to play around with the settings. But, you know, we'll get it worked out. I think it's going to be the reason I'm using it, just so everybody knows, is because the first person that types in the proper way to claim an artwork, the Nightbot recognizes just that first person. So when we have time delays in the chat and things aren't lining up properly for us or lining up properly on YouTube, we can guarantee that the bot is going to acknowledge the first person that types the claim the right way. So, because I had a guy, there was that incident around the third round where Frederick and Marcus, I think, were claiming something at almost the literal same second. And, it's down to the milliseconds at that point. And it shows as Marcus getting it for me, and and on YouTube it showed the same thing. And even Frederick sent me a screen grab from himself in Belgium where he was first. So clearly the chats aren't always going to be identical, but that's where the bot will come in handy because it will only acknowledge that first one. And then there's like a timeout period. So anybody else typing it for the next 30 seconds, it won't acknowledge it. So that gives us a clear time to say, yep, Frederick should have got that piece, or definitely it was Marcus. So, it'll work out. Yeah. And I agree. It did work during testing. It just didn't work as well. And as we had hoped while it was live. But I think next week it'll be much better. We've kind of figured out the triggers that it needs. And I think we'll be able to put in some wild cards. So if people don't actually type it exactly the way I want it, that it'll still acknowledge the first person as long as they're close. We'll have to wait and see. Again, I'll run some more tests probably before we do it. And yes, Jason, congratulations. I saw the shirt, and I also saw that you picked up that other piece of art too. So that's good. Always moving stuff makes Anthony happy. That's for sure. And all right, so let me, I want to get going and go through my update today so I can get our guest on the screen. One thing I did note after I started writing the report was that Colin had kind of made a snafu on the reporting. And so the overall sales for the period of the 22nd through the 28th of February was not $950,000. It was, in fact, $850,000 between dealers and auction houses. So not a big difference, but it's still $850,000 between the two with no significant auctions or art drops from dealers is pretty impressive. So let me go through the important stuff. The dealer side of things is where all of the money was really earned last week. That was $577,000 between the dealers that were basically slugging it out. And I don't really have the list of the top sellers, but I know that Panel Page was number one, and that was primarily from a group of several sales of high ticketed items. So it pushed them over the top and probably contributed to about a third of the overall sales from that period. So let me go ahead and give you a shot at the video for the dealers. So first up is actually this piece by Albert Moy, sold for $85,000. This is from Uncanny X-Men issue 111, page 2 and 3. John Byrne, Terry Austin, of course. So that was the number one of the week. Albert's dipping into some stock, I think, to get these pieces out there. This is Invaders number 3 cover by Jack Kirby. This was sold by Panel Page. The asking price on this one was $75K. And this is actually another Panel Page sale. Asking price was $55,000. It's Bill Everett and Jack Kirby from Tales to Astonish 83. It's the page 1 splash. Then another panel page sale. So again, why he was so high. It's Romita Senior, Gil Kane, Defenders 27 cover. Asking price on this one when it sold was $40,000. And I was actually holding this piece of art not more than a week ago. It was sold by Mike Berkey, RomitaMan.com, for the asking price of $30,000. It's Daredevil 6, page 11, Wally Wood. And finally, this is another Albert piece. This is by Michael Golden. It's from the What If issue 41. It's the cover. And the asking price on this one was $20K. So not too bad. Not too bad at all. Don't see a lot of Golden, at least that kind of quality stuff out there any longer. But again, I think Albert was talking about going in and getting some really nice pieces to sell. And I think he did that in spades. I don't have the total, unfortunately, but you can check out the market data report for dealers to get the final totals for each of the dealers that were out there. The auction houses did have a drop from the week before. I'm not sure, primarily was from heritage sales. I'm not sure why they didn't make the big push like they had been doing for about the 3 or 4 weeks leading up to this past week. But sales at auction houses were $271,000 for that period versus $375,000 from the prior period. There was the Hakes auction as well that happened that week. That's not in our market data since I don't track that for them. They had a few significant sales. They had the Kurt Swan Action Comics cover that sold for I think it was around $50,000, maybe $49,000, and then they had some old dailies from Mickey Mouse that sold for substantial amounts. So they were pretty happy. I know that they don't sell a lot of art regularly in their auctions. I mean, as far as a large quantity, but they have been expanding it every time. So if you're not checking out their, I know, and they only run them, I think, 3 or 4 times a year. So it's not like Heritage, but it's more along the lines of their signature auctions or maybe Comic Link's featured auctions that they run every 3 or 4 months. So definitely worth checking out. And the quality of the work was up. They had some Mignola pieces that sold pretty well. So obviously lots of good stuff there. And Comic Link had a huge auction on Tuesday that I'll talk about next week. And their results won't be included in it. But I did ask them if it would be okay if we do a recap show, and they agreed. So now I'm just trying to see if I can do like an hour-long show sometime next week. If I can't get Will, Mike, and Glenn to agree to go on maybe on Monday night and try to do a briefer update, because it was a very significant auction, at least from my perspective, on Tuesday. Once again, they've had a really solid, sales, and I think it'd be worth doing a single show for them. And Josh agreed; he thought it would be great. So he wasn't even aware we were doing the ones for Heritage. So go figure. Not everybody's watching us while we're doing these chats. That's all right. I don't mind. Josh is a busy guy, but let me get on to the popular artwork picks. And I'll tell you this, I swear to you, it gets harder every single week that we do these. And it's all these auctions and the sales that are going on. It's pretty impressive. When I went through everything yesterday to pick the artworks from that week, I literally probably could have doubled it. There was 30 pieces of note from last week that were just hands down gorgeous and easily should have been in this report, but they can't be because I have to limit it to what I want to pick. So let's go on to my popular art choices. First up is Uncanny X-Men 266 cover. Of course, it's in the collection of Dinesh Shamdasani, Andy Kubert, penciling and inking, as you all well know. Beautiful pick. Dinesh was pretty active in his post last week. This is in the collection of Jason Prasaji. This is from Thor 414, page 18. It's from Ron Frenz and Joe Sinnott. Fantastic. I've always been a fan of Ron Frenz Thor, and that one's a great page. Next up, this is posted by W. Grief. This is John Byrne, Terry Austin, of course. It's from X-Men 116 and the cover. And then we got another X-Men piece here. This is in the collection of James S., my buddy. Andy Kubert, Dan Panosian. This is from X-Men number 19, page 14 from 1993. That's a beauty. This is a Jack Kirby, John Verputten piece. It is in the collection of Andy Robbins. It's from Eternals number 2, page 31. And this is a great War Machine 11 cover from 1995. It's in the collection of Paul P. It's by Dave Taylor and Tom Palmer. Now, of course, this one was in the news, as everybody knows. Ultimate Fallout #4 cover in the collection of Dinesh as well, Mark Bagley. And we all know what the price on that one was, don't we? This is in the collection of Kevin Boyd. This is Norm Brayfogle, of course, Detective Comics 590 cover. This was a stunner. Lots of comments on this piece last week. Probably my favorite piece in the group. And another Andy Kubert piece. This one's in the collection of Larry Tunn. This is Wizard X-Men 30th Anniversary Special cover. Don't remember this one, but I like it. And this is a Sergio Aragones, Grew the Wanderer, 1981. It says it predates the first appearance. This is in the collection of Duke Fleed. Really like that one too. And here is a piece posted by Dave W. Artist is McGinnis and Maury Hollowell. This is 2011 Avengers Volume 4, Issue 15. This is Alex Ross, of course, collection of Steve M. This is X-Men #3, obviously an homage to an earlier X-Men book we all know. And an Adam Hughes piece, Steve M. collection as well. This is the cover to Catwoman #72. And I'm going to wrap this one up with a little bit of self-gratification. And everybody saw it. It is the Dave Cockrum Phoenix and Nightcrawler Bizarre Adventure issue #27 illustrations. These are the pieces that I picked up from Mike Berkey last week after the show from last week, where, if everybody recalls, I had mentioned that we were talking about 70s and 80s magazine style comics that were out there during that period. And I can't remember the artists whose pieces we were talking about at the time, but I had commented that I've always was looking for a page from Bizarre Adventures 27. And earlier that week, Mike had contacted me. He said, I was going through a box of stuff that I hadn't looked at in 10 or 15 years, and there was a Cockrum piece in there. I don't know what it's from. You might be interested in it. Maybe we can figure out what it is, because he didn't know where it came from. Or, he knew where he got it in the deal, but he'd forgotten about it. And so I didn't talk to him until Friday after the show, and he showed me the image. And at first I knew I had seen it, but I couldn't remember where. And then once we popped around and Google Images for a few minutes, it was pretty obvious what it was. And, it was just ironic that was the piece that I talked about from the book I was really wanting to get something from. So we did work something out. And, everybody should be happy. I am getting compensated for all the work that I do on Dueling Dealers now. We've got a nice commission structure, so it's usually going to be done in trade. But hey, at least it allows me to get a few pieces that I might not want to spend the cash on, anyway. And Mike and Anthony were very amicable to making that work out, because it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of fun. Obviously, and I get to work with my kids, and I get to work with my wife more when we do that show, because she's basically the producer, so it makes it very fun. And yes, so thank you all for all that. I do appreciate it. So I don't want to keep my guests waiting, so let me bring in the guest of tonight, Dave Kopecki. How's it going, Dave?
It's going well, thanks.
Welcome to the show. Welcome.
Happy to be here.
I have been a huge fan of your calf gallery for a long time, and very envious, I have to say, because you as we all know, the 90s is probably the hottest market segment out there today. I mean, really. I mean, I think it's outperforming the 70s and the 80s, and I mean, the current market is pretty hot too. But there's not a dealer out there who won't say 90s original artwork is really where it's at right now, as far as like scarcity and jumping prices, and really making, buyers are in a frenzy. I mean, and that's part of the sweet spot too, right? I mean, most collectors who really have that period of art, are probably in their early 40s to late, maybe 50, and you got a lot of expendable income at that point, and I see it. I think that's great. I mean, it's great for the hobby to have something like that happen, because I don't feel like, we saw that, say, 10 years ago with the 80s artwork, but we're seeing it now in the 90s, and it's exciting. I mean, and
it's
for
an
you,
explosion.
Yeah,
it's really an explosion. It's unbelievable sometimes, but like Comic Link that just happened was just mind blowing.
I agree. That's why I thought, I never wanted to talk to Josh about doing an auction recap show with him, just because I felt like that, would say no. But now that the last two auctions have done so well, and 90s art has played a really big part in that, I think that it's going to give me a little bit more leeway to work with him some more, and it'll be fun. It'll really be fun, I think.
Yeah.
But
Awesome.
But anyway, so yeah, you've had a calf gallery since 2008, and
yes,
like I said, I visited probably once a month, and we were talking about just how your focus being on prime pieces from the 90s, and it's probably been that way for a while. So before we kind of jump in and talk about your collection, you got to give me the usual story that I want to get from everybody, is how you did get your start collecting original art. What was that piece, if you remember it? And the floor is yours.
Okay. Well, I had worked in comic shops in my teens in the early 90s. So I had a lot of sketches from various local artists and some people that had kind of were semi-pros. But it wasn't until 2000, I want to say 2005 or 6, that I finally got a published page.
Mm-hmm.
And it was because I had seen articles that basically said comic art was just expensive. Like, they only focused on the expensive stuff. But in my mind, when I read those articles, I was like, oh, then this is not something I could ever afford to get into. But when I started, it was like you could get a published page for $20. When I very first started in the early 2000s, I had a $20 per page limit that I would put on eBay. And for a long time, it was like, oh, I missed it because it went to 30. And then over time, you gradually increase that limit. First, $100 seems like a lot of money. Then a couple $100 seems like a lot of money. And then soon 5 figures and you're not batting an eye.
Right.
So it's kind of funny how that works. But yeah. I would say Comic-Con 2004-ish. My brother had an extra ticket back when you could just change the name on somebody's ticket and take them instead. And so I went, and that was the first time that I'd ever gone to Comic-Con or any really big convention with artists. Anything else was local regional shows or something like that. So Comic-Con was what changed everything for me, I would say.
And when you went there, I mean, did you go right for published artwork rather than trying to get commissions and that sort of thing? Or
I didn't come prepared that first year with any kind of sketch materials, and I was still kind of new. And so first I wanted to figure it out. I didn't want to be that awkward guy just asking people, because I didn't understand like the custom of asking someone for a sketch or something. But it was still early enough to where people still sketched for free. If you had a sketchbook and you were standing at someone's table looking through their art or buying a print, then they would sketch something for you in your book. So that was mostly what I did. But I'm not a big commission chaser. Sketches I get in person at cons. I don't tend to do very many mail order sketches or things like that. Mm-hmm. My focus is mostly and primarily on published art from the 90s.
Right, of course. So do you remember what your first published piece was that you picked up?
Yeah, I still have it. It's on my gallery. It's a Blade the Vampire Hunter page. Not even a comic that I necessarily ever read, but I was just really fascinated with the page. Mm-hmm. And that was the first page that I bought, and it just kind of started the floodgates from there.
Was that a convention pickup, or was it something that you...
No, it's like an eBay. Like when I started, I was very much alone, did not know anybody, didn't have any friends that collected art, no family or anything. It was just me and eBay for the first like couple years. I found CAF around 2006, and I mostly just talked to people through CAF and met people that way, and then kept telling myself I'll set up my own gallery when I get a scanner. I didn't want to be the guy that posted photographs. And after like 2 years of not sharing any of my artwork, after I had found CAF, I decided I'm just going to go ahead and join and start posting stuff, and I'll just upgrade the scans later. So that's kind of how I fell into CAF. And it really changed my world because it was just eBay and me at a desk at night looking at my computer screen, just looking for anything in a wrong category or whatever. Because, like I said, my budget was super small when I first started. And it's still not that much bigger now, although you wouldn't necessarily know it to look at my collection.
Right. No, that would not be the impression I would have at all.
Yeah.
So you're one of those guys who's like the hound dog going through eBay, or at least back then you were, where you would look at miscategorized art by the parents who were selling the artwork that they needed to get rid of or something weird. Because I mean that happens quite often. Okay, I never could do that. I tried.
It takes a lot of patience, and it used to take all of my time. From the time I got home from work after dinner, I would just get on the computer, and then it'd just be eBay all night. And the obsession, once you get bit by the art collecting bug, you're just obsessive. You always want to be the first one to find something or pour over whatever. So I got really good at tracking stuff down. I'm kind of known for, I have to hustle a little harder, work a little harder, go through a little bit more steps to get the pieces that I want. I don't just have the money to offer somebody for them. So sometimes it'll be art for art trade. Sometimes they only want money. And so then you've got to sell art to give them. It's still, in my mind, I consider it all a trade.
Right.
So I'm just trading this piece or these pieces for that. So nobody necessarily wants to trade down, even though I'm trying to trade up. So it's more just finding that way of getting what you want, and both people being happy at the end of the day.
Right. Well, I mean, given your great collection already, I mean, I assume you still have pieces that you're looking to upgrade or to get that you haven't really found the right piece yet to satisfy that itch for a title or
exactly. About 5 or 6 years ago, I started what I called my bucket list. And it was just prices were already starting to rise. Things were already starting to change. 90s art used to be pretty easy to find and really affordable. When I first got into it, especially Image and Wildstorm art, which were two of my focuses, were very affordable. It was super
they really were for a long time.
I would see Scott Williams at Comic-Con every year, and I'd always buy pages and stuff from him. And then at a certain point, I was getting asked so often to trade those Jim Lee pieces that I kind of used them as trade currency. Just in my mind, I can see Scott next year, and I'll get more pages then. And eventually the well ran dry. And so I don't have as many Jim Lee pieces as I once had, but I've gotten a lot of really nice artwork in these trades.
No, I mean, well, it all pays off in the end, and you definitely got in at the right time. And picking up those pieces direct from Scott, is definitely would have been the way to go if you wanted to get a jump on it. And I mean, a lot of people do that. A lot of people pick up a lot of pieces that they know aren't going to be there in the permanent collection, but they're going to appreciate them while they have them, because at one point it's going to be an asset somewhere down the road. Yeah,
definitely. So I don't know. Yeah, it's just interesting that we have this hobby that we can do so much in. Buy, sell, trade, meet people. The community is really awesome. I like to talk, so I like to talk to everybody, whether it be at cons or just an email. Most of my best friends in the art world are thousands of miles away. I live
by the way, I didn't even think
I'm in the Bay Area, California. So I'm West Coast, and most of my friends are either like East Coast or Europe for a lot of the stuff.
Sure. Did you because I feel like, have we met at some shows before?
We've met at Comic-Con when you're at Splash Page.
Right, when I worked there. That was a while ago.
Yeah, it's probably been a few years. I mean, I go to Comic-Con every year, but I don't always hit all the dealer booths. It depends on what my focus is that year.
Well, Artist Alley isn't what it used to be. I was going through some pictures from 2006, 2005, when Artist Alley was just a big open area. They always had that auction in the back corner. There was always a Jim Lee piece that was being auctioned off.
Always. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So those were good times, and that we don't get to have that. We don't have it today thanks to COVID, but the last 10 years haven't been anything like that at all. Those early 2000 shows were a lot of fun, and I'm sure people who were there in the 80s and 90s can make me feel, even more sad. But those early 2000 shows were just a lot of fun, and the artists were a lot more. They were very approachable, and it's just different. I mean, they just kind of the con themselves pushed all the artists kind of out, forced them to be in booths or be at the publisher booths only. So, it's
Yeah.
unfortunate. It scattered them everywhere. It just made it harder for people to know where you could run into some of the artists that you wanted to meet there. So I like the
definitely. Yeah, when Artist Alley was in the middle, in the back there was my preference over, like now they just put it off in that far corner up against the Hall H wall, and that's all they get. But I always spend time going through, I think 2018, maybe, I did a mission. I called it the Zealot Project for Jim Lee's Wildcats. And I went around and I found anybody who had worked at all on Wildstorm projects. And I think I got somewhere like 35 sketches at that one Comic-Con, and just hit every artist that ever worked there, begged, pleaded, whatever I had to do. But yeah, it was very cool doing it, because I actually missed Comic-Con in 2017. And that was the year that 25 year anniversary of Wildstorm panel happened, and they had all the big get together and the reunion, and that would have been my jam, but I couldn't get there and I didn't have tickets. And I was just so bitterly jealous at home. Just like, I can't believe the 1 year I'm not at Comic-Con happens to be the year that my Image Wildstorm was my thing, but Wildstorm primarily is, I would say, my biggest focus. And so not getting to go and meet, because there's a lot of the people that I've never gotten to meet that flew in just for that event. And so that would have been cool, but it was not meant to be.
Well, they're, at least they still show, I'm sure they'll be back. You can go to the 30th or the 35th anniversary.
Yeah, I mean, if they do something now that DC's kind of going, they're going, who knows what's going to happen.
I agree. I'm very curious to see how all that stuff shakes out, as far as the changes that they've had to make now that they.
Yeah.
Jim's still got a job though. So
he's not, he's got job security.
Definitely he does. But when we were emailing, you alluded to something. You were talking about doing a lot of live streams and other chats that you had to do for some project that you have going on. Yeah. What was that? Because we really didn't really tell me what it was.
I didn't get into it too much. A few years ago, my brother and I are doing comic books, and basically Andrew Mangum is my brother, and technically stepbrother, but 20, 30 years later, you don't say that anymore. So my brother has been an artist since about 2003, and he was kind of living the comic dream for both of us. And then he asked me to come on board, I want to say 2017, 2018, to help with some projects. And so I started writing Cave Woman for Emerald Entertainment. We did Razor's Run, which was the book that relaunched Razor and all the characters from London Night from years ago, back in the 90s, Bad Girl craze. They were bought by our publisher, and so we have the characters. We were tasked with relaunching them. So he gave us a little imprint. And so I'm the writer and the editor, line runner of Emerald Dark Entertainment. And we basically created a shared universe between Cave Woman, Bud Roots, Cave Woman, and Razor, and all of the Razorverse. So we've only released 3 issues so far under the imprint, but the first one came out at the beginning of 2019. Some of them came out last year. Due to COVID, we ended up doing Kickstarters instead of just diamond releases. So in the summer was the first time I've ever run a Kickstarter. And so I run all the Kickstarters. I run the imprint. I basically write all the books that imprint will do.
Oh, cool. And how did the Kickstarter do?
Successful. Like, for an indie project, you never know what you're going to get. So anytime you can break 25 grand in a small indie book is a good thing. So we managed to do that for both issues of my book. So I'm happy. People are reading it. It's out there. It's getting decent buzz from that fan group, as it were. So it's been fun getting to live the comic book dream, even though it's like way later in life, not when I thought I would be doing stuff like that. But me and my brother used to try to create our own comics when we were teenagers. and we were almost going to be published by the local comic book shop owner who was self-publishing his own little indie books, and we just couldn't work together. Like brothers fight, and we fought, and it just didn't work out. And so I gave up on comic books and kind of went into filmmaking, because at least that way I can tell my stories even though I can't draw. And that worked for me for a little while, but ultimately I'm just glad that this opportunity came up and it seemed like a good fit, and it turned out to be just a really fun experience. We get to be teenagers again, making comic books however we want to make them and kind of have our own autonomy. So it's a lot of fun.
Well, that's cool. Well, yeah, I always wanted to make comics when I was growing up too.
Yeah.
But, yeah, what do you like you said, you went into film initially? Yeah, I went into metalsmithing because I was either going to be illustration or sculpture. So I realized I was not the best illustrator in the world, so I gravitated.
Yeah. I'm like a really talented 9-year-old as far as my art level skill.
But you're writing at a much higher level than.
Yeah, the writing, thank God, is better.
Oh yeah. Well, hey, there's a lot of artwork to look at. Now, can we pull up a couple while we're talking, and then we can you can tell me about them, because there's a pile of great things here.
McFarlane.
Yes. So,
I had wanted a McFarlane Spider-Man page for so long, since I started collecting artwork. But it was like, no matter what it was always just a little bit outside of my affordability. So if $1,000 was a lot for me, they were $2,000. If it was like $3,000 was a lot for me, they were $6,000. And it was just never possible. And then come 2017, Anthony Snyder actually had this page and had it up on his website. And I had been poring over everything on the internet, trying to find one specifically. It was like top of my bucket list, and he just happened to have this page. And it was funny because he was just like, give me a call, here's my cell phone number. And so I called him while I was at work, and it took us about 15 minutes to hash it out. But I had been trying to sell artwork to buy a page from somebody else, and I just couldn't get the art to sell. And so the other guy didn't want any trade, he only wanted cash. I wasn't able to get it, so that deal fell through. And then it occurred to me, if I took the cash that I had and those pieces I was going to sell and just offered them to trade in cash with Anthony, that maybe he would do it. And sure enough, we worked it out, and I was able to save the hassle of selling everything and just get the pieces from him. So I think I sent him the package of artwork and the check from me, and within, I think, 5-6 days, I had this page in my hands. So, I mean, it was very fast, very efficient. It was a very, very smooth transaction.
Well, that's good. Yeah, Anthony runs a tight ship over there. He's got a lot of employees, so that's one thing I always hear about him is he does ship quick. So yeah, very quick. And at cons, he's always the negotiator. He'll keep me standing there. No, don't go anywhere. And then he'll wander off to talk to somebody for a minute. No, don't leave. Don't leave. I want to buy that. I want to trade for that. And he won't let you leave. But over the phone, it's a lot easier because you can just make your deal and just hang up. Exactly. No, I've had that experience with him many times, either at San Diego or New York Comic Con, where he wants to keep talking, but he's got something else to do. And then you just feel obligated to wait just a little bit longer.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I know. That's how he is. But that's cool. So how many pieces? I mean, not telling me what they were. How many pieces did you have?
I want to say it was like 4 or 5 pieces. Like I said, most of my stuff was mid-grade stuff. I didn't have a lot of high-level, high-quality, high-value artwork. A lot of it is taking a bunch of pieces and turning that into one bigger piece.
Right.
So most of these pieces, and I'll go through them as we go through them. I'll give the story on each, because almost every one of them was a long journey to somehow pull off. 3-way trades and deals with dealers who ship the art directly to that person, and then they ship that art to me, and just whatever it takes. Basically, sometimes you got to go the long way around, but as long as I end up with the piece at the end of the day, I'm a happy guy.
Right. I mean, how long had you been looking for the McFarlane piece before you were able to score that one?
12 years, 14 years. Like, it had been a long time. And for a long time, I wanted one with webbing, but obviously that adds zeros to the overall total.
It really does.
So I wanted Spider-Man in costume, MJ if I could get it. And that page had all of that. It's Spidey in every single panel. You got MJ in a nice evening gown. So it was a really cool page. And so when I came across it, I couldn't believe that Anthony had it and I'd never seen it, because like I said, every day I was poring over the internet just looking for something like that. And so, yeah, when I finally found it and I was able to bring it home, that was a really cool experience.
Oh, heck yeah. When you're searching for something for 12 years to find something you can afford. No, I'm totally, I'm the same kind of collector. I mean, I don't have a lot of money to spend on artwork, so I'm always looking for deals now. And if I couldn't trade for some things, like trading time with Mike or with Anthony, I'm certain that I would not be able to have some of the pieces that I've got today if I wasn't doing that. So, it's how it goes. And I should say, Ryan, thank you for the plug. You're hired for letting people know they should hit the like button. Something I never, ever remember to do. Never at the end. My wife threatens to make this little cheat sheet that I'm supposed to say at the beginning of every show, and it's not, a month later I still don't have it, so I never ever think of it. But fortunately, people in the audience remember to do that.
Yeah, thankfully.
Yes.
They got you right.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's I need it. Trust me, because I am about as absent-minded as it comes to this sort of thing. But let's look at another piece, because I really like this.
Absolutely. Danger Girl.
Yeah.
Danger Girl. I got really lucky on this. One of the things I started doing in the early 2000s is tracking down inkers. A lot of the inkers have left the industry and still had a bunch of their art because they weren't doing shows that they were selling it at, and honestly, selling art for a lot of them is a hassle, and they don't seem to really be interested in selling it. So you kind of got to reach out, find out if they have stuff. I don't know, urge them to maybe send some scans your way, things like that. And so I found Tom McWeeny when I had posted another piece that I had that he was uncredited as the inker of. And once he started talking to me, that's all I need. That was my opening. I started talking to him. We found a few pieces of art that he had that I wanted, and we just made a deal pretty much very quickly. I just said, hey, how about I give you this much money? He said, okay. And I've been trying to get him to sell me more, but unfortunately, because he had a second Danger Girl page, the one right after this one. So it was like 2 pages together, and he wouldn't sell me the other one. And then he sold it to somebody else. So sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And in that case, I won by getting this one, but I lost by not being able to get the other one. But it's how it goes. You can't win them all.
Right. Well, it sounds like he wanted to make sure that the art got spread around. If he only had a few pieces he was willing to part with.
Or something. Yeah, and he's not a big fan of selling. He's one of the artists specifically who was like, if he goes to a con, he'll take some pages and he'll post online with a photo of them, but he won't sell them to you if you reach out to him like, hey, can I buy that page? I'm not going to Baltimore Con or whatever. He still wouldn't sell it. So like I said, there's just sometimes you swing and you miss, and other times you swing and you hit a fly ball, and other times it's out of the park. And so every now and again I get lucky. And more than anything, I would say luck, and I have a belief of art karma is like what I like to call it. And it's kind of my philosophy, where if I see a piece of art that somebody's looking for, because I talk to everybody and I know what everybody else is looking for, I'll email them, show them. And people do the same for me, and you build these little networks, and it just seems like unbelievably good things happen to me because I do good things and put that goodness out into the universe. So I genuinely feel that some of it is just like that art karma. It's just, if I miss out on this piece, then there's a reason, all things for a reason kind of a thing. So it's just a belief that allows me to sleep at night when I lose something really badly, like I did on Comic Link this week. I was horribly outbid on the item I was chasing, and I thought for sure I was going high enough, but things are going even higher than you would expect. So
no, the good stuff is definitely very expensive today. That is the way of the comic art collecting, unfortunately, right now. That the average pages are going up too, but anything that's of value or of note is definitely
anything significantly noteworthy is definitely getting ridiculous.
So Carlos had asked a question earlier. Can Dave walk through an example of how a three-way trade could work, time and effort? I don't know if that's going to be in any of the pieces.
It will. The Art Adams cover.
Okay. When we get to that one, Carlos, we'll be able to give you an example on that one. Okay, good.
I
had a feeling there had to be one in there.
Yeah. All of them, for the most part, there's a couple that I just managed to afford or I made payments on for a series of months. But most of the pieces I think I sent you are elaborate trades and things like that.
Cool. All right, so I can get another one then.
Yeah. My baby.
Gen 13. Yeah.
Gen 13 #1. One of the more iconic covers, used for all kinds of different materials. The DVD cover, the action figure cover. Basically just a really great image of the team. Gen 13 was always one of my favorite comics at the time, and was just always really important to me. I had been trying to get any cover for a while, but never really successful. They were always just a little out of my league. And this one was way, way out of my league by every stretch of the imagination. I should not own this piece.
So how did it happen?
But so basically, I reached out to the owner, this great guy named Paul P. And I was just letting him know, hey, if there's ever any way we can work out a deal for this, I will happily send you a huge stack of art, or I'd be happy to try to raise the money. Tell me what I can do to convince you to let me get this. And I think he said something along the lines of, put a pile of money in front of me and we'll see. And so I talked to a couple of friends who encouraged me to go after it, because obviously this is not something that's ever going to go down in value. And even if I pay crazy money today, it'll go up in value and be worth more than that later anyway. So it's not like I'm ever going to lose money on it, but it's far and away the biggest thing I've ever gotten. And so what I did was I sold a bunch of really nice pages to my 5 best pieces at the time, I think. So I sold 3 pieces to one of my good friends, Ben, who basically was nice enough to send that money directly to the guy. And then the other pieces I sold to 2 other people just through Facebook, didn't know who they were or anything. One of them was a painting I took off my wall, which I never sell my paintings. Once I custom frame them and put them up on the wall, they're usually there. But this was Gen 13 #1. So I even took a piece off the wall and basically just put a giant bag of money in front of him, and he took it. And to me, it was, again, a trade. I just took the 5 biggest pieces that I had that I would have easily have just handed to him if he would have traded. But I was very fortunate that people responded quickly. From the time I talked to him about would you ever consider doing it to paying him the giant bag of money was less than a week. Wow. It just came together. It was like all signs and stars aligning, and just everything worked out. And it couldn't have been a smoother, easier transaction. If I would have had to see all the money and pay that money, it would have been different. But I had everybody pay him. If you keep the money out of my hands, I'm not tempted to keep it. And so then it's just basically a large trade to me. And so that's kind of what it was. No money changed hands my direction, but it was enough to, he laughed and he was like, well, I guess I did tell you that. And so he honored it. And so yeah, just one of those pieces that I'll probably have for a while. And I get a lot of comments on, and people are always asking me about, and especially after the Gen 13 Zero happened 2 weeks ago.
Right.
So it's one of those things that comes up now more frequently, but it's one of my, well, I mean, it's on the wall here.
Right.
So it's one of my pieces I like to look at often. And so I would say that's my crown achievement. That one was my grail. I've never had a grail at that level, just actually be able to get. And so that was a huge win. And like I said, it happening so quickly and easily, it was almost no effort at all. It was unbelievable. It was definitely just
you said you had to give up your 5 best pieces at the time, at least your 5 best that you were willing to give up.
Yeah.
So you did give up a lot, I imagine, at the end of the day.
Yeah, at the end of the day. But I was able to buy one of the pieces back later, and
that's
you
good.
you do what you can to minimize the loss. But most of my career, like I have an inactive sold gallery on CAF. I think it's over like 600 pieces now at this point, just because of all these years that I've been. You always have to trade something to get something. Me and my wife have a don't ask, don't tell policy that's more like if I don't use any of the family budget money, so none of my paychecks, none of my like family budget money, I have to sell something to come up with that money or whatever. So credit cards are not allowed, and family money is not allowed. But otherwise, sky's the limit. Whatever I want to do, she doesn't want to really know. And at this point, she's probably better off not knowing, just because it's almost obscene, the numbers we pay for things nowadays, and I can do without the questions.
Right. Well, you'd probably be pretty proud of you, I think. If she,
yeah, I mean, for the most part, she's impressed. I have like an inventory spreadsheet, because at a certain point it occurred to me, if I die, they don't know anything about any of this stuff. They're just gonna like sell all that hard work for pennies on the dollar or something. So I put together this spreadsheet that has every piece linked to my CAF, so they have an image of it so they can see what the piece is. And it just has all the information from what I paid for it, when I got it, who I bought it from, how much I anticipate it's worth currently. And that way, at the very least, when I go, I don't have to worry that they're just going to piss it all away. So, but every now and again,
is important. That's for sure. I feel like that's like a topic that we should cover at some point, because I do feel like every collector, big or small, needs to have that spreadsheet in hand, and some kind of a living will for your artwork, so that, you know, if you're not going to be there, there needs to be some directions for your estate to take care of things, because I do think a lot of people don't know, you know, what they have. And, you know, there'll always be somebody willing to step in and, you know, offer pennies on the dollar. So you're better off having a plan in place before that day come, you know, just to be safe, because you never know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, that is way to go. And she knows where the spreadsheet is, right?
She does. I've shown it to her several times. Like, there've been a couple of times I've had a surgery or something. She's like, "So what is all this? Show me this again. Here's the safe combination. Here's my inventory sheet." And so we've gone through it a couple of times. She knows where everything's at, and she'll do well to follow the instructions on the sheets.
Very good. All right, let's look. I know we got another Gen 13 cover here, I think.
Yeah, number 17. This was one of those long way around pieces. After I got Gen 13 number 1, obviously I'm all pumped up, and I'm like, I need to get another Gen 13 cover. And they're still way out of my price range. But one of my buddies on CAF had this piece for sale. And so we tried to work out a deal, and I tried to sell some artwork so that I could get the money to pay for it. It just wasn't happening. I didn't have enough big things that were in demand that were going to sell quick enough. And he even offered me a really long time for payments. But if I can't guarantee the money, I won't commit to something that might bite me later. And a high value item such as this would bite me later if I suddenly didn't have the money to meet a payment or something. So I offered trade. He wasn't interested in trade. And then I did a deal with another friend who wanted specifically like a Michael Golden cover from Wildstorm. I managed to find a cover that Mike Berkey listed on Ramita Man, and it was exactly what my friend wanted. So I bought that piece for him, traded him for a Jim Lee X-Men piece that he was looking to trade for a Golden cover. And then I used the Jim Lee X-Men piece to trade for the Gen 13 cover. So it took me about a year longer than when we first started talking about this piece. But I did end up managing to get it from him. I just had to pay him some money, give him a page that I got from my friend by buying him a page. And it was just one of those three-way deals like I was talking about, where you just kind of involve two other people and somehow make it work.
Well, I mean, I can't say I've ever done a deal like that, but it makes sense, right? I mean, if you know enough people who have given you their want list and you know what they're really looking for, if you can swing, then I'm impressed that it took that long and the piece was still available, because it seems like you could get halfway through it and then the piece isn't, is no longer available, and then you might be stuck with something that you may or may not, it might still be valuable, but it might not really be what you wanted. So. Well,
at the time, I think he was on the high end of the scale. That scale has since jumped dramatically and all that. So he would have easily have sold it a year later than he actually did. But it did take some effort because it was a high price. And so it still needed to be mostly trade. And thankfully, I was able to find something that worked out. And again, everything just kind of fell into place and it just happened and worked out. So
very
art
good.
Karma.
I'm going to answer a question from George. He said he's always wondered if there was a function that we could pay for it to export the data from the galleries, assuming people fill out what they want, in the upload section. We don't have one, and it wouldn't be something I'd make you pay for. I really think that, it's your data at the end of the day. We have that gallery report. I don't know how many people actually ever even look at it, but yeah, right. I mean, I think it's really useful. I look at it at least once a week just to kind of double check stuff. It's very useful. It gives you a summary of your entire collection.
Yeah.
It does have paging though on it. So if you've got several hundred pages of artwork in your CAF gallery, it's going to be very long. But the thing is, I've always wanted, but it summarizes the the value, the art, the amount you spent on the art, what you feel your value is on the art, and it shows you everything. And it also even lets you run estimates from our market data as well and give you some idea on what we think the value of the artwork is. And again, I don't think a lot of people even know it's there because we don't do a great job on it. But I would say that I've always wanted to put in the option to pull out a CSV file from that report. So you could take that CSV file and put it into, Excel, and then you would have a spreadsheet that covers all of your collection. So it's on my personal want list to add, and it would be free to anybody who's using CAF in that way to archive their data and store the personal information that only they have access to on those sale prices and that sort of thing. So it's always been on my list, and I'm going to write it down on my notepad right now as a reminder that it should move closer to the top of the list, because it really isn't a hard thing to do. So this is probably
make a note.
I duly noted. It definitely needs to be there. Yes, CSV option would be awesome. Yes, George. I'll make it a priority. We're in the middle of actually working on the redesign for CAF to make it mobile friendly. It's not going to be a giant leap in design at all, but I just wanted it to get there. And so as soon as we get that done, I have about 4 or 5 things that we're going to work on, and I'll make that a priority because I know collectors want it, and I get asked that question a lot. It's like, if you already entered all your data over here, you don't want to go and enter it over in another spreadsheet. You should just be able to pull a export whenever you want it. So I owe it to everyone who's ever used CAF to make it easy for them. So I'll move it up. Let's see. All right. Yes. Tommy, you guys say, all right. It's a priority now. I got it.
Yeah.
All right. Let's look at another piece of artwork here. There we go.
There we go. The Art Adams Gen 13 Gen X cover. This was one of the 3-way trade deals. There was a guy that had this cover, and when I reached out to him to see if he might be willing to sell or trade it. He was like, I'm not really looking to get rid of it. I really want to have an Arthur Adams cover. And so I asked him, well, is that a specific cover that you wanted, or is that just the one you have? And he kind of said, yeah, I would take another Art Adams cover. So if you wanted to trade me an Art Adams cover for this Art Adams cover, we can make that happen. So I looked around, and again, Mike Berkey at Romita Man had, I want to say, a Secret Avengers cover or something. And it had a lot of characters on it too. So I sent the link over to the guy. I was like, would this cover do? And he said, yes. So then I struck up a conversation with Mike. I think I ended up giving him 3 or 4 pieces of art and the cash that I had. And he sent the other cover straight to this guy. As soon as he got it, he sent this cover to me. So I didn't have what the guy wanted, but I knew where to get it. And that's half the battle.
Right.
So it was just a case of, he bought it because he wanted an Arthur Adams cover. I wanted this Arthur Adams cover. So it was a little more, my need was specific and his wasn't. So it was great that it was just very easy to work out a deal.
Wow. Yeah, Berkey comes up in a lot of conversations like that I've heard in the past with talking with people, just because he has such a variety.
Well, and he's one of the few dealers that does trade, let's say, more fairly. Like him and Anthony will trade a little more value for value straight across, whereas other dealers want like double their value in trade, and it becomes not worth it anymore to try to trade. So of the dealers that do trade, I would say Mike and Anthony are some of the easiest to work with. I've done several trades with both of them and never had an issue.
Right. No. I mean, everybody's always trying to optimize the value and devalue the piece. I know. I've been through that, and I've watched and listened to enough conversations to know. That it's not an easy process with some people, but
like the last 4 or 5 trades, we never even spoke of value. Like it didn't even come up. We didn't say, hey, this is $8,000 worth of art and yours is only 6.5 or anything like that. It was like, I will give you this for that. And without even discussing value, we made the deal. And so I think as long as both people are honest and coming from the right place in the transaction, a trade can work out and be beneficial to both. But there are people out there. My very first trade, when I was really early, I had only had a calf for a few months, and some guy was like, hey, I really want these pages. Would you be interested in a trade? And he had a page that I thought was really cool. And in my mind, it must be worth more because it was an image page. It was a Tony Daniel, the 10th page. And I had a bunch of old Valiant pages. And he was like, no, you'll have to give me all 4 of those Valiant pages for this one because this one's worth so much more. And I just thought everybody in this hobby has always been so honest. And I just stupidly, foolishly sent him my 4 pieces. He sent me his 1 piece. And I found out almost immediately that page was worth maybe one of the pages that I gave him. And so it was a souring experience that definitely made me a bit leery of trading. And I didn't try trading again for like 10 years because it was just such a crappy experience the first time. But by and large, the people in this hobby are just incredible, helpful, generous people. I've been in a line where their number was called in the J. Scott Campbell lottery for the sketch cover at Comic-Con, and some dude gave me his winning ticket. It was like, I got one yesterday, here you go. And like, just because he saw me there every day, lining up for that stuff too. And he just wanted to help me out. And that kind of cool thing is why I try to pay it forward and I do things for people. And I meet a lot of like brand new to the hobby people, and I will offer to mentor a little bit, like give them advice, save them a lot of the foibles that I stumbled through when I first started. And people seem to appreciate that. And like I said, I'm a firm believer in the art karma. So it's just doing good for good things to happen to you and the people that you help. So I just really like helping people by and large.
Well, I'm the same way. I mean, I think I firmly believe that good things come back to you the more you put in.
Exactly.
So no,
exactly.
They don't always.
Yeah, well, maybe if you're doing the good things, hoping for the good things, but if you're just doing it without intention, I guess I would say.
No,
if you're just doing it, then I believe it almost always comes back and pays out.
Right, and I'm not sure that many collectors have that same experience. Like one of the early trading, you just make mistakes. Especially when you're dealing with somebody who might have 10 years on you in the hobby, and not everybody's looking to be fair, and that's okay. At the end of the day, it's how it goes. Unfortunately, there are no rules to this hobby, and what's right and wrong. But I traded away things that for other things that I knew even when I was doing it, I was happy with what I got, but I knew that it was still wrong, because of values being placed on things, and what are you going to do? I mean, I wish I could go back and do it all over again, and I'm sure I'd still probably make some of the same mistakes, but
because they made sense at the time. There's nothing you can do. Learn from it, move on, and that's kind of. I don't let things get me too far down, because every now and again you'll want to kick yourself because you'll see suddenly some artist is worth a sickening amount of money and you sold all that stuff 5 years ago.
Yeah, and
even worse is when you see the exact things that you did own selling for ridiculous money, and you're like, I got like $100 for that. And so you've been around in the hobby long enough to where you've seen the stuff go from giving it away for next to nothing to now selling for 5 figures. It's insane.
Yeah, no, definitely today it gives us a lot of things to lament from the past.
Yeah,
I had a really nice X-Men cover by Mike Mignola that I wish I had back, and I don't even remember what I traded it for. And it was
that's the worst.
I mean, that's how bad it is. I don't even remember what I got because I don't think I own it anymore. Boy, I wish I had the cover back, because I'll never be able to afford anything as nice as that was ever again. So
there's definitely a certain level. If you let something go at this point, you got to know that you're never going to get it, or maybe anything even like it again, because that's where we're at now, and I don't have any more money than I had before, and so I'm not going to suddenly be able to spend 30-40% more than what it was when I couldn't afford it.
Right, exactly. No, I'm with you. But there's lots of nice comments about Mike in the chats too. He's been good to a lot of people, and Jordan also mentioned somebody I've not dealt with before. Andy Brown from Berserker Art is good about trading. I've
traded with Andy a few times.
Okay, I've emailed with him a lot, but I've never done any deals with him before. So seems like a very nice guy.
He is very.
All right, let's see. Let's pull up another piece here. This is a big one.
Yes, the Harbinger. When I first saw this, I was like, oh my God, I have to have that. And it was the first time I reached out to an art rep, and he gave me a scary number. And instead of just thanking him for his time, I was like, and do you take payments? And even those payments were really high. And he was willing to spread it out over months, but it was like 4 figures a month. So it was every month just selling artwork until I made enough for that payment, make that payment, start all over again. And so it took me 6 months to pay off this piece. And it was a bit of an unusual situation where he was the art rep for the artist, but the art rep had bought the art. So it was technically his art. He wasn't selling it for the artist. And just one of those things that he decided he was going to sell it. And I didn't balk at the scary number. And it was the first time I just made it happen. And so this was the one that showed me that even though it was ridiculous and it should not have been something I could do, that I could pull it off. And once you see that you can pull it off, you get a little more confidence each time. And so this piece was, I think I got it in 2012 or 2013 or somewhere around there. And so it was like the gateway drug piece. That was the piece that really showed me that a McFarlane Spider-Man page was going to be possible, and a Jim Lee X-Men page was going to be possible. And just really kind of opened the door to, because for a long time, like I said, I had a no credit cards, no family budget money kind of rule with my wife, and she's very understanding and very tolerant of this hobby and how much artwork I have on the walls, and she puts up with an awful lot. And so when I get something really, really big and she doesn't really see the value of it or whatever, she still knows that it was worth it to me in the long run. And so this was one of those pieces that I was very into Harbinger when it first came out back in the early 90s from Valiant. The new series was very promising when it came out, but to me, this was just a representative piece of everything that is Harbinger and everything that I loved about it. That team of renegades versus the Harbinger Foundation people, and you just got everybody on there, and it's just so incredibly detailed. I bought it much like the art rep. He said he bought it to put it on his wall in his office, but it would have been too big. I bought it for much the same reason, but when I got it, this is a black and white scan. In color, it's very light. It's like Brett Booth's pencils, just very, very light grayscale. And so this 4-page image looks great on the computer, but was not going to look good on the wall, unfortunately. And just being pencils, I'm paranoid about fading of ink or yellowing of paper. So for the most part, if I hang a black and white piece, it's an exact copy that I print out on artboard, and I make sure to write on the back, not original art, so my family doesn't try to sell it when I die. And basically, I just make sure that, excuse me, I need a drink again. And I saw somebody had a question. Yes, that's Harbinger 7, 8, 9, and 10.
Very good, very good. Yeah, that's I think it's a very common thing for a lot of collectors to print out nice copies and hang those versus putting the originals on the wall. It makes a lot of sense. Anthony got in trouble a month or two ago when he had one of his people that helped him set up his booth had put a print of the was it X-Men 4 Splash that he had sold maybe 6 months earlier in Heritage, but he had made a print of it because he couldn't take it to shows to show it to people.
Yeah,
and so it was in his portfolio, and it was on the back wall when we were doing a live show with him. And so a couple people were like, "Did he shill to get that back?" And then so that's why if you ever see Dueling Dealers and Anthony's flipping this thing, that's his copy of the Avenger or the X-Men 4 piece, because he's like, it's not real. It's not real. I should never have done it. So but that makes sense.
I destroy them if I ever sell or trade them, but I like to, especially the Gen 13 covers, I like to be able to just stare at them every day. But I'm not going to take the chance of those fading or anything silly happening to them. So no matter where my house faces, sunlight seems to come in the windows. I can't completely black anything out. So paintings are behind museum glass, and those are up because they're less likely to fade. But I'm just super paranoid about the black and white originals, and so I don't put originals up on the wall often. I have a couple that are professionally framed and got the museum glass, but for the most part, I feel safer with them, especially the high dollar ones or whatever, in my fire safe.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you one bit.
Lady Death. So this cover was Stephen Hughes' last Lady Death cover, done shortly before he passed. So I saw it in a Comic Link auction, and it was one of the few times that I had enough money to actually get it. It didn't go as high as I expected it would. It had a bend across it, all the way across the top, like through her head and through her sickle and everything. And so I ended up going to Robert Dennis and having him flatten it out for me, basically. So he just pressed it and worked his magic, and you can't tell because it was a bend, not a crease, I should say. So it looked awful in person, but there was no break in the fibers or anything. So all it just took was some heat and some pressure, and he was able to just make it look brand new again. So I got really lucky, and I think I got it for a bit of a deal just because it was clearly kind of bent in the scan. And so But it worked out really well. I sold my Chaos collection in 2010 when the economy tanked and my job reduced my salary and everybody got hit hard in that economic downturn. And I ended up selling, I want to say 30% of my collection just to pay bills that year. And so I got rid of all my Gen 13 miniseries pages that I had and a lot of Jim Lee Wildcats and Stephen Hughes Chaos and things that were specific focus things back in my earlier days. And trying to get any of it back now is getting more and more expensive. And the good pieces are harder to find. This was a nice Lady Death cover that has her fully on there, has some other character heads on there. But more than anything, I really liked the fact that if you can't have the first cover that Stephen Hughes did, I was able to get the last cover. And so that made it a little special to me. And the fact that it's Lady Death and a published cover also helped, because I've had some of the various unpublished covers that he had done, but this was the first published piece. So it was not like the specific goal. It just showed up in Comic Link and I was like, oh, I really like that. So It was not one of the specific ones I went after. I had other Stephen Hughes pieces, but it is the only cover I have by Stephen Hughes now. So it's nice to have a published one.
I agree. And Wes mentions that Robert Dennis does incredible work, and I've seen a lot of stuff. That Robert's done, and he's a wizard with paper and fixing things like creases or even worse, water damage, that sort of thing. So maybe when this show's over, I'll probably put a link in the overall description to this to Robert's website in case anybody ever needs any restoration work. It's always to remind people about him, because he's definitely, I'd say, the most notable guy out there. There are a few, but he does fantastic work. I know he's always got a full plate too. He always tells me a couple months worth of work going on, but he does fantastic work.
Absolutely. I've used him, I think, twice now, and I've encouraged others to use him who are also very impressed by his work. So I had a piece, an Art Adams cover that came. It was in a top loader sandwiched between Masonite, duct tape all around.
Yeah.
It went missing somewhere en route, shipped via priority, showed up around 30 days later, just with the art and the top loader. No, the boards were never found.
Oh my.
It was horribly creased and bent in all kinds of different ways. My guess is the duct tape got cut in a sorting machine and pulled off. The piece slid out a little bit, and then it just bent up as it was kicked down or whatever. But I had put in a search. They never did find the boards with the tracking information. But one day, the really, really badly damaged art and the top loader were delivered because the guy had included the eBay receipt inside the package. And so because that was inside the top loader, they knew where it was going. They didn't know how it was supposed to be mailed or whatever, but they did deliver it. And so I did get the piece, and I was just heartbroken. It was so bad. I've never seen a piece damaged at that level. But Robert Dennis managed to make it look brand new again. You could almost not even tell that there was ever anything wrong with the piece. And I was convinced that it was just destroyed. So the man can work magic is the short answer.
Very much so. And I'm hopefully it posts properly, but Coom had asked if I had ever, or would I ever interview Robert. And I actually did do an interview with Robert. It wasn't a live stream though. Robert wasn't comfortable to go, in front of everybody to do it. So I did it offline and posted it. So it's not one of my more well-known interviews for that reason. But I posted it. I know you're on Facebook, Coom, so I pasted the link and shared it over on Facebook. I can share it on YouTube later as well. But I did it about 5 months ago, and it was a lot of fun. We talked for probably about 2.5 hours, showed a lot of examples of the work that he's done, and it was fascinating. Absolutely, he really is a wizard with paper and restoration, without question. And I highly recommend his services. All right, let's see. Oh, here we go.
All right, so Simone Bianchi, I just really like his artwork. I can't even remember now, 6, 7, 8 years ago, somebody approached me wanting to trade a Bianchi page for a Jim Lee page that I had. And I just was really fascinated with the artwork. And that was when he was doing his ink wash. So everything was fully tonal painted with ink wash. And it was a Wolverine page. And I thought it was really cool. And that started me down kind of the road to his work. And at some point, this cover was offered to me in trade by that same guy. He's an Italian collector, so he gets a lot of the Bianchi artwork like I was getting the Jim Lee artwork. It was just close to us. And he offered it to me at the time. It was the Deathmate Splash by Barry Windsor Smith, inked by Jim Lee, that had Solar and Void like intertwining in a full page splash about to end the universe. And he was like, hey, I'll trade you this cover for that page. And I kind of waited a little bit. And I was like, yeah, I would never be able to afford a Bianchi cover outright. And so I went ahead and traded him. And this cover was notable because it was revealed in this series that Angela is Thor's sister and daughter of Odin and all this stuff. So this is the only cover to have the entire family, basically father, sons, and daughter. And it's just a great striking image. I love the soft palette. Like that's an unusual green for the background. People don't tend to work in that hue. And just Odin's armor and the color of everything. I really dug it. And it's a really solid example of Simone's work. And it was probably the nicest thing I was ever going to get offered. So I figured it was a good time to make the deal. And I regret it every now and again because that Deathmate splash was a really cool splash, but it was really like 2 floating upper bodies and a burst of energy, lines coming off it. So this was just, I felt, a more presentable piece. And so in my mind, I just have to justify it, and then I'm okay with it. And so I was able to reasonably easily like justify that piece.
Well, I mean, I love everything that Simone does, and he's such a nice person. I haven't seen him in a while, but I'd see him at New York quite often, and he was always great to talk to. He's very, and he's had a couple of gallery shows recently in Italy. Yeah, and so no, he deserves all the accolades that he's getting because he is just fantastic. I mean, there's really, I don't think I can compare him to another artist out there today. I really like his work. It's
such a distinctive style, not really like anybody else. Mm-hmm. Oh, my Spawn baby. Yeah. This was a funny page. When I was offered this page, I liked it a lot when I saw it, but he was offering it for something I had no intention of selling or trading. I had the Prophet number 5 splash, double page splash by Stephen Platt. That was his first Prophet issue after he left Moon Knight. And it was the double page, like explosive. He's exploding out of he was encircled in dead enemies and he blows out, and then machine gun firing across 2 pages with bullet shells everywhere. And it was just an incredible page. And it was a bucket list item. And I had no intention of letting it go. And this guy just wanted it so bad. And he was emailing me all the time. And I just kept saying, no, there's no way. I don't want to let it go. This is a representative piece. And he was offering cash, and then he was offering this page, and then he offered more. And I think ultimately I got this page and a pile of money and like another page or something. But after I got this and I got it in hand, I was just blown away by it. One of the earliest splashes that I've seen that's like cover quality, not just littered with word balloons and narration boxes or any of that stuff, because all of the Spawn art from those times, the word balloons are drawn into the art. So it's not like paste ups that you can just remove or anything like that. Right. So basically I wanted something that looked nice and all that, but I never in a million years would have gotten a piece like this if I didn't have a piece that guy was just crazy for. And so after I got it, I started researching a little bit more because I read Spawn up until about issue 25 and then sporadically, and then I kind of just fell off. But in the earlier stuff, they didn't have anything that was like this. And so I got really fortunate to have this. And then at Comic-Con, I was able to have Todd sign it. So it's signed by both the artists, and Todd was even like, "Oh, that's an oldie." Just it was really a really cool experience to talk to Todd and this page. And so just all in all, like, this is something I get emailed about a lot. People are always making offers on it. I'm always polite to say no. This is not going anywhere anytime soon. If that day comes, it'll be down the road. So
this one is just Spawn 27, right?
Spawn 27. There were a couple other splashes in the book, but nothing remotely like this one.
Oh, it's stunning. Absolutely stunning.
Yeah, there's no way I would ever have something like that. So it's just one of those things that I feel very fortunate to have that.
Right. Well, you had something they wanted. So at the end of the day, it worked out well for both of you.
Exactly. So this was a Unity page from Unity 1, Barry Windsor Smith pencils and inks. So nobody else did it. He made sure to put BWS inks on top and on the back and circled on the back. So he wanted everybody to know that he inked it. But there were a bunch of Unity and Archer and Armstrong and some other BWS pages on Comic Link. And all of them were going up to various levels, but for whatever reason, this was the one I decided I was going to focus on. Would probably end for a little more affordable. It had all the characters that I'd be looking for. So we got Archer and Armstrong, you got Solar and Magnus. I was like, this is kind of cool. And at the end, all the pages jumped up to almost $2,000 except for this one. Mm-hmm. And it was hundreds, not thousands. And I was just blown away. And so I was very happy to get this page. You got the BWS initials there in the first page and his hand signature at the bottom right corner. So it's just a nice representative page of his Valiant work, which I didn't have any other, and I still don't have any other Valiant artwork by him because the prices on that have also kind of soared over the last few years before I was able to get anything. But I used to have a few various Barry Windsor Smith pieces. Now I just have 2, I believe. So it's this one and a Wildstorm one of all things. But yeah, this was just, I couldn't believe I was able to get a Unity page from those free issues were cool. And they were just something that was so impactful to that time period, my love of Valiant and everything. So just being able to get a Unity page was cool. I've got Unity pages from other, like a Shadow Man Unity page or something like that, but that's an actual Unity page. So that mattered to me at the time, and I still like that.
No, it's a great page. I mean, did you get that from Barry, or did you or who?
No, it was on Comic Link, and it ended for much less than I would have thought it would have. I think there was just enough Barry Windsor Smith ending about the same time that people all focused on whatever they were going to focus on, and all of them went up except for that one. So I got really lucky. And it's things like that make me really believe in the art karma thing that I talk about, because a lot of unexplainably good luck things kind of happen.
Yeah.
And that's one of them.
Everybody's having fun playing with the Nightbot at the moment. So no, guys, it's not going to time you out any longer. I fixed that. And if Glenn were here typing in all caps at us, it would not lock him out for 5 or 6 minutes like it did last night. I've corrected those problems, but yeah, we'll see how long it lasts. But yeah, you can keep chatting. All caps is okay. So let's see. Oh no, this is a good one. This is a piece by Travis. Wildcats Volume 2, Number 2.
Yeah, Travis Charest. I have 2 pages from this issue, and it was hard to pick which one. I was going to focus on, but I really like this one. You've got the creepy kind of monstery vibe from Maul there as he's shifting. And of course, Voodoo is one of my favorite characters. So it was just a really cool page that I was able to get. It was the first Travis page that I was able to get. I want to say that was the first one. I now have several pages, but back at the time, this was over 5K and on Berkey's site for a while. And then one of my Italian friends traded it off of him, and then I traded it off of him. So just wasn't able to make it work at the time with Berkey, but was able to make it work with my friend later. So very fortunate to have got it. And then this is actually one of the pieces that I sold to get the Gen 13 #1 cover. And then I bought this back over time from my buddy Ben.
Oh, that worked out then.
It worked out very well. Yeah. So, I mean, it's all like the lettering on all the pages and stuff. There's sound effects on both that I have. This one says ARG and the other one says boom. And they're all just hand drawn. Travis draws all of that. And he'll ink and do certain parts. And then Rich would tell me which parts he did. So inked by Richard Friend. They were a great team on the Volume 2 run of Wildcats. And so I'm very fortunate to have 2 pages from the issue.
Oh, heck yeah. And Richard's got a very nice collection as well. So
he does.
Yeah.
A lot of inkers do, but a lot of inkers are also fans. And so they do collect the other pencilers and stuff that they like. So
yeah, Richard was very active on CAF in the early days. And on a lot of the chat forums and stuff that I frequented. So no, it was really fun learning a bit of the hobby just from the posts that he made and the things that he would write up in his CAF gallery, because in the early days that was kind of like all I had as a collector.
Yeah,
seeing those kind of posts. And so Richard was somebody who was always very. I read everything that he posted just because there was always some nugget of good information in there. Yeah, he knows his stuff. He's got a YouTube show of his own that's pretty informative, and yes,
he's a good guy.
Without question. Now, this next piece is one of my favorites in your collection.
Yeah, that one. I love it so much.
I don't blame you.
Somebody had it and put it up on eBay last year, and I knew I wouldn't be able to get it on eBay, even with the best offer feature, because nobody's going to come down on the price if they have to pay 10% to eBay. So
no.
I just reached out to him, asked him if we could discuss it elsewhere offline. And I have my email address at the top of the description of my CAF page, so I could just send people a link to my CAF and just tell them the email's there in the top. And that way I'm able to have those conversations. And so this guy was very reasonable. Got him to agree to like a 20% discount, and just sold a bunch of artwork and sent him the money. And so another one of those pieces that just completely all the stars aligned, everything worked out, and pretty quickly I was able to get it. I had been looking for specifically a Bernie Wrightson and Stephen King piece for years. It took me a long time to find one that I could both afford and actually talk somebody into parting with. For a long time, I was looking for something from Dark Tower, because that was my favorite book series. But Cycle of the Werewolf has just some amazing images, because he had just come out of his Frankenstein period. And so he was still doing that, just like that sky is all just cross-hatching. And so all the little white specks are just the white in between the cross-hatching. And when you really zoom into it, it's insane. So I have it on my hallway wall. So I have to walk past it every day, and I just stop and I stand in front of it and just kind of zone out for a minute. And you can get lost in that one. It really is just the detail, the line work, the craftsmanship, just the skill is just mind-blowing on that piece. I really love that piece. And it was just fortunate happenstance. Like I just happened to be able to pull it off. Like no rational reason I would own that, because it's well out of my league. But
yeah, no, honestly, I would kill for anything from Cycle of the Werewolf as well. You know, because it doesn't come up that often, and all the images are so memorable. So
exactly.
no, kudos.
So I was just super lucky.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, you know, like it's the karma thing probably coming back and working in your favor. You know, it's really true, I think, because I've never been in the room when anything like that's come up. But it would be. I have a few rights and pieces that I have, like, you know, I'm looking at, but I would give them all up to have something from Cycle of the Werewolf. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah. And that piece actually in the the best of last year was my first podium piece. I've never made it to third place in anything on any of those, but I mean, I'm sure it's because we've added categories and we've thinned each, like,
a little bit. Yeah. I mean, that's all Brian's doing. Yeah. I thought we got a little bit too spread out because, you know, but no, it's okay. No, that was a great piece. I mean, I think that outside of somebody posting a Frankenstein piece, I mean, that one, you know, was incredibly deserving. Completely, a lot of people feel the same way. So we're gonna have more fun with the best of going forward. I think I have actually some programming things that I need to work out on there so that I can get put recognition down on the artwork itself when people are browsing the CAF gallery and show it off, and doing something in the green, like the member box that has your information in it, where I could show how many trophies you've gotten over time, you know, just stuff like that, you know, where the data's there now because of the way we're handling the best of differently. Remember, it always was in the Lowry before, and now that it's pulling art from your gallery, I can do things that reference the art while it's in your gallery. So just a question of time, and
it's coming.
Trying to get more programming time is tough, but we'll get there. So this was you cheating on a piece here when we were trying to get the numbers. So.
So I have 4 of the 6 pages of this sequence. So this is a very memorable scene for me. When I was 13 was when I came back to comics. So from about 10 to 13, I was just into skateboarding. All my allowance, all my money went into skateboarding supplies. And I had stopped with comic books for a while. And then a friend gave me Uncanny 267, the second issue, or the issue after Gambit's first appearance. And so I really dug Gambit. I thought he was just the coolest character, and his relationship with Rogue and his fight with Bishop, all of this in this issue was a very memorable issue for me. And so the page here on the left now, the one where it's just Gambit throwing energized gravel, basically, and then the boysenberry pie, was my first page. And once I got that, I decided, hey, I'll see if I can put this sequence back together. And so I found the guy that had the page after that's in the middle right now and convinced him to part with it. He wasn't looking to sell, but he agreed to, and he even let me make payments and delivered it to me at a local con. So that was really great. And then the middle page in the previous one came from a dealer. He had gotten it in a trade, and then he reached out to me. Hey, I see you got 2 pages from this issue. Would you like this page too? And he also let me make payments over months. So again, now I'm 3 pages in, and it was easy. You start getting cocky. And then
it's too easy.
Yeah. And then so those are the 2 pages I need, the first and third pages of the sequence. And then the 3 original pages on the bottom half. The one on the far right was the most I'd ever spent on a piece of artwork before. It was on Comic Link. Everybody was bidding on it. The problem with people knowing that you need a piece is they will sometimes go even harder, and then you've got to go even harder. And I put a really high number that I thought there was no way it was going to reach, and it almost did. I barely won it. But the only reason, and this is where it gets funny, this was one of the times where I had to sit down with my wife, explain the situation. I had been saving up for a car. I used my car money to buy that piece of artwork. And she understood the love, the mission, trying to reassemble it, how hard that is. And so I got her sign off on doing it. So that one I went pretty high on and I managed to get, but now I still need those 2 other pages, and it's just, who knows where they are. They're not on CAF. I've never seen them on CAF. Just can't seem to find them. But I post to the Facebook groups from time to time and just be like, hey, anybody seen these pages? And that's why the image is all 6 pages together. It's just easier to share on Instagram and Facebook and be like, hey, I'm looking for this. I used to have them all in a line, and it was so small that you couldn't see anything.
Right. Well, that was my problem. That's why I broke it up like this, because when I put it on one slide, it was too small.
Yeah. And I wasn't sure if you would need to break it up or if I should send you all the singles or what, but it's easier to discuss it like this for sure. Oh, yeah, but yeah, it's been a long, I think, 7 years, 8 years so far of trying to put that sequence back together. So I've still got some time,
right?
But the prices are getting to the point that, yeah, it'll be painful if I do ever find those pages. To actually get them is
right.
Gonna hurt.
I mean, that one, the Jim Lee page in the Comic Link auction went for mid-40s, I think. Right? I mean, it was a great page, of course, with Wolverine.
Yeah, anything with Wolverine with claws, you're going to get tens of thousands of dollars for it. And Rogue and her little Daisy Dukes, that's going to cost me.
yeah. So you had to pick the pricey one. You couldn't have picked
I did.
Pages or
but
something.
Gambit and Rogue and Bishop were just the important new. Well, Rogue was new, but she was part of it because of the Gambit thing. But Gambit and Bishop were brand new and cool, and that was kind of the thing with Marvel and DC was you could always read it and go back decades, even if you wanted to get more story. But once Image and Valiant and things launched, I was there at the beginning. Those felt like my, I don't know, my titles. Like, and at the time I'm 16 years old and Harbinger's about teenagers and Gen 13 was about teenagers. And so I really liked those books at the time because I was relating to the characters. And so it was different than what anybody else was doing. But I liked that I was there from the beginning. And so I knew all the history. I didn't have to go buy 100, 200, 300 back issues to learn all the stories behind these characters. It was all pretty much unfolding as I was reading. So that's part of why I think my heyday coming at just the right time with the Image, Valiant, and really just the indie revolution that happened in the early 90s just changed my outlook on things a lot as far as comics went. And they weren't just about Spider-Man or Superman or whatever. You had options and characters that maybe were more complex, and that was really cool.
Very cool. Did you end up being able to buy a car though? Did you make your wife happy?
I did end up getting a car later. Ironically, it was because I got into a car accident and totaled the car I was in, and then insurance bought me a new car. But I was planning to give that car to my son, and that's why I was buying a new car. And so it sucked for him, but as it turns out, he didn't get his license, doesn't want to get his license, has no interest in driving. So all's well that ends well at the end of the day.
I've got a pair of those too. They're both of driving age. One's 18 and still has no interest in even getting their license. Like, hey, that's cool.
So, I don't have to pay the insurance that's required if you live with me. So, I'm fine with it.
Well, we got one more piece to look at, and it's a good one as well. Jay Lee.
This one is recent. I was online with my friend Eric, and we were chatting, and I think we must have both been searching CAF because somehow we were both looking at this piece, and I was like, "Are you going to ask for it?" Because the guy posted, I want to say it was like a Saturday night, and it was already pretty late, and he lived in Hong Kong. And he posted a bunch of pieces with really good prices. And so I immediately emailed him on this one. And then he posted some other pieces that I I really wanted. So I emailed on each piece specifically instead of just waiting for him to get back to me and be like, hey, I'd also want these. I knew that these would be popular enough, especially at the prices he was offering, that you need to just claim. And so I claimed the 3 pieces, and the guy got back to me, and sure enough, I was the first one. And he's like, there was a lot of interest. I woke up to a lot of emails, but you were first for all 3 pieces. So you get all 3 pieces. And so it just worked out really, really well. But this is my favorite period of Jay Lee's work, when he was taking razor blades to all of his artwork and just doing all these crazy slash cuts to do all the white lines. And he just had a real raw energy in those early 90s days, where the splatter and the sharp angles and the fingers, and they always seem to have a knife like that in all of his stuff.
Yeah.
Started on Namor, but once he came over and did the Image stuff, so he did the Youngblood Strike File, the Wildcats trilogy, and then his own Hellshock. Those are some of the best artwork, as far as I'm concerned, of his ink period, because after that, he kind of evolved into more of like a simplistic, like Mignola kind of style for a little while. Mm-hmm. And then he went to that elegant, delicate pencil thing that he does now. And whereas that's really cool, it's light pencils. I like him like black and white and just, and so his ink work is what I love. And so to get that nowadays, you got to go back in time. And so this is just one of those iconic covers that was everywhere at the time. It was on posters in the comic shop and in Wizard magazine. And so, yeah, I'm so glad that I sent that email when I did and just managed to be first, because otherwise I don't think I would have gotten this piece. Once somebody else bought it, it would have disappeared for a while. I mean, that guy said he bought it years ago. He's just kind of been out of the hobby for a while offline. Mm-hmm. And so he just happened to post, I don't know, like 18 pieces for sale. And I bought 3 of them. And then several people I know bought 2 or 3 each. And we sold almost all of his art like that first night.
All right.
So
was he a premium member, or was it just like random around it? Because it happens that way a lot, where you just
I check the new on CAF.
Yeah, of course.
Every now and again, just to see like what's been coming up. But I also do daily searches where I just right click and open a window from one of my featured pieces of Campbell or Jay Lee or Jim Lee, and just to see what's posted recently from those guys. And sometimes you do it and you just happen to see the piece at just the right time. Sometimes you miss it by that much and you just kick yourself for days afterwards.
Right.
And so in this case, there were a lot of people kicking themselves, but thankfully that wasn't me. I messaged on each piece, so I got all 3 of the pieces. So it worked out really well for me.
You're giving away your secrets tonight.
Well, this one, that's not too much of a secret. But yeah, the trading stuff, I've had people try to ask me to write articles about like how I do what I do, because I'm a collector with maybe a few $100s at best per month budget. But even with that, you can make things happen if you're creative. You maybe got to find the inker, not the penciler, or you got to check places in the wrong categories and the odd, weird little auction sites. Sometimes you find something in a gallery in Europe that just randomly has a piece, and I can't always say how it happens, but I tend to find things. I'm a seeker of quality art. I have a pretty good system for looking for things. I can usually find something if it's out there, but there are so many offline collections that there are just some things I don't know that I'll ever find until those people die and their family liquidates the artwork. But I'm still hopeful that I'll be able to find some of these other pieces. But the way I've been transitioning my collection from a lot of little things and like impulse buys, almost like you just cruise Comic Link at the end of the auctions. You're like, that's a good price. That's a good price. And I'll buy a few things that are just because they're a good price. just because I need a win. Because Comic Link will kick your ass sometimes, and then you're like, well, I need something. I don't walk away with nothing. But like I said, this last Comic Link this week, there was no deal to be had. I couldn't find a consolation prize anywhere that was going to make me feel any better.
Right.
And, the prices were all just very solid prices. So for the sellers in Comic Link, it was a great thing. But as a buyer on a limited budget, you do start to be like, man, this is going to get harder and harder and harder. And
I've been saying that for the last 6 months. I think we're all in that position now where we just have to. We're overspending because we don't feel there's going to be an opportunity that we're going to be able to afford it a year or two down the road. So I think that's driving prices up considerably. But there's still deals to be had. I mean, that was an exceptional auction on Tuesday as a featured auction. When they do their focused auctions, there's still, you find a few good deals in those that, which happen a little bit more frequently. But so
I did okay in the last featured auction. Got a really nice color, Dean Yeagle, Mandy, and just a Jim Lee panel page and some other stuff. And so, I mean, deals there can be happening every time, but getting less and less frequent as far as that goes, especially in the featured auctions. So, focused. I always mix those up.
It's the featured one is the one that they had on Tuesday. The focused one is the one where they don't have as many high end pieces.
The monthly ones.
Right, the monthly one is. I know. I got it mixed up for the longest time, and finally Josh beat it into my head. The focused is the smaller one. Featured is the bigger one. Get it? Yeah. It took a while. If they didn't both begin with F, I would have figured it out sooner.
Exactly. They both have important sounding.
But hey, I'll let everybody know. I'm actually working on. I won't say which dealer who's asked me to do this, but finally, I have had the request to hide sold items on their site. So I know that's like the bane of many collectors' existences with respect to some dealers' websites. So, and we're making it really, really nice. The whole thing. It's based. You think of it like an advanced search, like when you search their site. The default view of whatever's there will be only pieces that are available for sale. None of that mixing in of sold stuff. And we're going to carry that programming down to like the artist pages with a similar sorting. So you can order it by date, by price, high to low, low to high. Pick out your art. Like is it a cover or an interior versus even with on the artist pages, it'll be kind of grouped by the title too, so it'll give you a count and a drop menu, and I mean it's going to be like everything I ever wanted, but no dealers have asked me for it yet. So I think once we do it for this one site, then everybody's going to want it, because I know that that's always been a problem. I mean, if it wasn't for at least CAF, we don't show sold stuff from the dealers in our inventory there, so that kind of distills it. But it always stunk going to. I mean, I didn't like going to a dealer's site looking for art. Because you'd wade through 50% of it and it was sold. So, or more in some cases. So, yes, that's on the horizon. I guarantee, this one site will be done in less than a month. And then I know after that's seen, everybody else is going to want to have it too. So, you think about it, the idea that you, on a dealer site that you have to wade through, I think it like turns people off. So they stop looking. If you could just be looking at stuff that is actually available, you might actually sell more. So
if you're not wasting my time, then you stand a better chance of getting my money.
Exactly. So definitely I can't wait to roll that out, because I've been using it just to browse this one site, and I'm like, wow, there's a lot more there than I thought, but I never took the time to look at it all. So
definitely.
Very good. I'm just seeing if we had any more comments in here while we were chatting. Yeah, Enrico's going to be thrilled. I know he's the loudest voice on Facebook with regards to sold items on people's sites. So but he's an ex-dealer, so he has that I'm sure he had that mindset that he only wants to see stuff that's for sale. When he probably had his own business, that he probably took his sold stuff off. And when I built all these websites, I never thought a dealer would leave things on their site after they sold them. It was never a concept. So I just made it too easy for people to just leave pieces out there and know who to filter them out. So live and learn. you know. Yes,
That's all you can do. Learn from the things that happen.
exactly. Let's see. Just looking through. From fan, that's true. But anyways, Dave, this has been a lot of fun. We're getting close to 2 hours here on the stream, and I like to try to at least keep them under 2. So I hope we get to, I know it's going to be another, year or so before San Diego is going to happen. So we'll have to like coordinate it. If you're going to be down there in 2022, I'd love to, hook up at least and look at what you bring. Hopefully I'll have a portfolio of some good artwork to look at by then too, since I'm kind of getting myself back in the hobby. To hang out and meet.
That'd be awesome.
Too. Yeah. All right. Very good. Well, everybody, I appreciate you guys. Here, Dino has asked you, what new artists have caught your eye?
Honestly, there's not a lot. The 2 that were included here were Miko Swayan and Simone Bianchi. They're probably the 2 that caught my eye the most. I'm not really into a lot of the modern stuff. I'm more nostalgic driven, so my stuff is more focused there. But there are things like Bianchi that are just undeniable magic that you see it and you like it. But other than that, there's not too many current artists that weren't around back then that I would say that I pay too much attention to. And
the Miko piece, was that bought through Court?
I bought that from Court. So that was originally Court bought that for himself, and then his office just wouldn't have fit the massive frame that he wanted to do. And if you're not going to frame it, some people will get rid of it. I'm not going to frame a lot of it, so I just keep it in the safe. But there's, I don't know, good and bad for both. But I think that by and large, I am more nervous about the paper having anything happen to it, because I've seen pieces come out of frames, even with museum glass, where they have the white from the matte all the way around it, but that off white kind of look for the page. And so I'm too paranoid. I can't imagine ever doing that.
Right. So I picked up a piece on eBay about a month ago that it didn't show it very well, but it's the same kind of thing, where the paper's tanned, but you couldn't tell it, and because it was actually in another, it was matted, and it clearly had been matted once before, so that you could kind of also see like the two sets of
the previous one.
But I really liked it. It was cheap, and it was something that I wanted. So I wasn't gonna complain. But that is disappointing when you see that sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
But all right, well, listen, I'm gonna call it a night. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Mr. Easy,
thanks everyone.
I appreciate you always being here, and Harry as well. Thank you, and everybody else who commented tonight. I appreciate you guys showing up, and have a good weekend. We'll be back at it next Tuesday with the Comic Art Live crew. They had a couple weekends or weeks off because of the Comic Link auction. They didn't want to have a show on a night when they were all bidding on things, so we took a week off. And we've got Michael Browning will be on the show next Tuesday, so that should be a lot of fun. And then we'll have our usual dueling dealers on Wednesday, and then another collector on Thursday. So. And if we get lucky, I will do a Comic Link auction recap on Monday if I can get the guys to pull together and want to do a show.
To do it.
It's a couple of them don't like to be on camera too often, so that's why we have the 2 week on, 1 week off cycle. But I'm going to try. All right, everybody. Thanks again. I appreciate it. Have a good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Dave, thank you. You have a good one.